Recording in progress.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Amy. Can you please read the open public meeting statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Roxbury was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. On December 28, 2023, notice was emailed and faxed to the Daily Record, the North Star Ledger, the Roxbury Register, and published in the Daily Record. Notice shall also remain posted throughout the area of the bulletin board, the main hallway of the municipal building.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman Carey.
Here.
Councilman Crowley.
Here.
Councilman DeFilippo. Councilman Hall.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Patillo.
Here.
Councilman Riley. Mayor Albert.
I am here. That brings us to reports of council liaison representatives, council committees, and new business, old business. Proposed 2024 operating budget. John.
Mayor, thank you. I would like to start, if we can, briefly, just to go over if there's any outstanding questions from council. At the last operating budget meeting, council had a handful of questions, was looking for some additional information from us. February 15th, we sent an update memo. I think it may be attached to your agenda. If it's not, I know everybody got the update memo. Some information about additional comments on data processing costs, zoning board, attorney costs, some fire chief backup that was requested, and also some backup from the health department. So we provided all that information. I wasn't certain if council had any additional questions concerning any of those things they talked about or questioned at the last budget meeting.
Yes, Deputy Mayor. Oh, sorry, Councilman Hall.
John, it says here that we put in 9 new cameras
In 2023.
in 2023. I know a couple of them went in at Horseshoe Lake, I know one on the island, and one on the senior center.
Yeah, there's different locations. We never really publicized all the locations, but we can certainly give that to you offline if you'd like to see where they were.
Yeah, I was just curious, because I'm just trying to figure out exactly where they were.
Yeah, there's some in different buildings. I mean, a lot of the buildings have them in different locations, town hall. There's a lot of different places where we've put it, just to try to capture, activity where we think we need to.
No, I was just surprised at I'm not upset at all, I was just surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, that's back to our original plan we had. I think we wanted to do it over 2 years. Instead of taking this 3 years to get it done, but we did get that initial plan done.
John, I thought the intent was to have it as it always goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everywhere we need them. And of course, depending on the building, there's multiple cameras here at Town Hall, depending on just, where you are in the building. And some outside also.
Okay,
Go ahead, please.
Deputy Mayor.
John and Mr. Blunt, the one that we've spoken about, is that one been taken care of?
It's a park.
Yeah.
That may take an act of God to get done. So I will call it tied up in Verizon red tape and paperwork. It's in the works. It's taken a lot of time. These gentlemen aren't really aware of it because it's being handled by Rock Hunkin.
Okay.
But it's just an amazing amount of work
I think Steve's got some updates.
to get it done.
I know Rob's actively working on it,
He is.
like John said, there's some red tape there.
A lot of red
He's
tape.
trying to work through it and get some, get approval from,
Is there another option in the area that maybe Verizon doesn't own?
I think we've actually talked about putting our own pole in it, maybe a simpler answer, something relatively inexpensive just to mount it on, rather than dealing with Verizon. They don't even use the pole.
Or we sign off on Verizon and say, you don't own it anymore, we'll take it. So we're looking at all those options.
Because they don't use it. They don't have any facilities on it. They just
I
have.
know, it's very strange where it is.
It is.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
in the,
Security and safety in that area. Is there an option to maybe beg for forgiveness and not ask permission?
too late for that.
Well, the problem.
They know we're there.
Just,
No,
public safety comes from.
If we could connect the power, we would do it. The problem is we need the power company to connect the power. If we had the ability to do that, we probably would have just done it. No one would ever even know. It's unfortunate. They don't even, probably took them weeks to figure out they even owned the pole. But it's in the works. I know that sounds crazy that it's taking this long. In the past, maybe there were some employees that didn't adhere to the red tape. So things got done a lot faster.
Okay then. Anybody else? All right, it's move on.
All right, so if we can, just moving on, I'm gonna go through, and if you're following along with I call it my cheat sheet, it's my account, all the accounts, we're gonna go over the ones that are listed for February 20th, so we're gonna start with some with Rick Blood and Steve Sinise, then we're gonna go to Brett Douglas for some of the things he touches in recreation, and then we're going to, end up tonight with, Melanie Machete, our town engineer, she's gonna talk about water and sewer. Again, we're all just talking about operating at this point. My hope is that our next meeting, which is scheduled for March 5th, to answer any questions that we can't answer tonight. There's still some things we have to go back that council had requested, looking at some revenues, expenditures, and some utility accounts, some things like that. All the loose ends we need to tie up, hopefully, on March 5th if we can. If we can't tie it up March 5th, hopefully maybe the following meeting, even if it's a regular meeting, there's one or two items. If we can get it done, Valerie has to submit everything this year to the state for approval, and we want to try to get things moving as much as possible. So we'll go through, hopefully, what I have planned for tonight and answer any questions council has. So if you're following along, the first account is streets and roads. I'm gonna ask Valerie or Lenore, do you have the page number on? Do you on the computer?
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, so there's a tab, if you're following along on the computer, there's a tab for streets and roads. And if there's any questions on those line items, a lot of those are the same you'll see as last year. Some of those we've reduced it a little bit, it just depends. I think, Rick, you would probably agree the largest increase you probably have in costs are sweeping and asphalt disposal. I think we increased that just to get rid of some materials.
Yes, correct.
Other than that, a lot of Rick's line items are hold the line from the previous year. If there's any questions on those?
Questions, comments, anybody? Nope, okay.
Okay, great. We're going to move to snow and ice removal, which is the next sub-account. This is one where we always try to project how much money we're gonna use for snow removal, whether it be purchasing salt, whether it's through contract services. And then we also think about using a little bit of the snow trust whenever we need to. So, you can see the requester account. We put this together, it was before the winter season even started. So we've had a pretty good year, thankfully, so far. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're certainly getting there. And you can see where we're looking for budget-wise in 2024. It's an increase from 2023, and this is always really best guess, right? Because we don't know exactly what this is going to be.
And I can provide, our expenses to date.
Oh, that's good.
Are $443,000. So roughly, we'll say we've got, just over 100,000 remaining in the budget. But we also have a balance of 225 in the snow trust. So we're really in decent shape for making it through the remaining months of this winter and obviously the next couple of months of next winter.
Excellent.
We're in decent shape.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
One more time, well, to date, we spent how much?
$443,000.
But next year, we're requesting $20,000 less than what we spent already this year.
We're requesting $549,000. The recommended bottom line, grand total of everything is $540,000.
And we haven't spent anything obviously this year either. Rick, I don't know if your numbers are right, because my number that I'm getting that we've spent so far is 230-something thousand.
I talked to Paul about orders that are coming your way that you do not have open POs for. So,
Okay.
and overtime that we spent in the last week, so this is
Okay, so you're
up to today.
Okay,
So
that's right.
And so with Snow Trust, that kind of supplements us, so we don't have to take it all out of taxation. So, in the past, we've talked about having a Snow Trust balance of maybe about $150,000. So, we're comfortable if we need to use some of that, we can use that. Well, it'll certainly get us through the year.
Okay, Councilman Hall.
I think we understand how the snow trust is populated. I believe if we don't use it that year, then it just gets rolled in, is that correct?
Yeah, and we take money that we didn't use out of the snow, anything that's over in our budget, and we usually put we put anywhere between 50 to 200,000 in there. Last year, I believe we put 50 in, to the snow trust, and then we didn't use any. So it's we're not gonna put any in this year.
For the purposes of the council, the 225, 250,000 that's in there right now, which is great, just in case we have a couple of really big storms, we have something to fall back on. That represents how many years of putting money into the snow trust?
Wow,
It goes up and down over the years. I don't know when
Yeah.
it started, years ago.
at least 10 years ago.
In 2019, we had $67,000 in it, so between 2019 and today, we've gone from 67,000 to a live 229,869 on this budget sheet, so we've replenished it each year, as we can.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councilman Carey. Crowley. Get it right.
I'm still a little confused. The operating expense, we spent through December 265, and we're putting another $32,000 for operating expenses?
Say that again?
Correct.
I'm looking at expended through December 31st, the operating expense
Okay.
was 265, and the request was 421, but the mayor, John brought it down to 297. That's still about $30,000 increase, so I'm just asking, what's that for?
It's always the best guess, because we don't know what the winter's going to be like. So we're guesstimating what we think we're gonna need to spend money on in all of those line items. And you can see over the years how they change. Like if you look back in 2021, you look at the contracted services, it was a lot more than it was in 23, just because of the mildness of the winter or the severity of the winter. So, you know, Rick comes up with his numbers, he puts a request in, we try to make it work, we take a look at it, we look at the snow trust, thinking we're gonna add some of that in, and we put a number in there that we think's going to work. But it's as much of an art as a science, because we don't know exactly what we're going to spend.
And I can see that in the contracted services, I'm asking about the operating expense.
Well, operating expense is salt, and that's depends on how much snow we get, what type of snow we get. If we get for instance, a regular snowstorm costs us about 250 tons, an ice storm costs us about 700 tons. So it depends on the type of event we have and how many of them we get. When you look at our 2024 request, $731,000 sounds like an awful lot of money, but if you subtract out the snow trust, that brings us back into, a realistic number. So what these numbers don't really show going back to 21, 22, and 23 is how much snow trust money went into it. That's a safety factor that we use. So we typically, the manager and finance reduces our request by a snow trust amount that is our safety factor. So we don't always bet on the worst winter. We plan on, a normal winter or, and then the snow trust is available for us should we need it.
So the expended number through December 31st doesn't show any trust money?
No, we didn't spend any trust money in 2023.
In 23.
In 2023, we did not use
So
the
then I
snow
guess my
trust.
question is, if we didn't spend any, but we're putting another 30,000 in, but we spent 265,000 operating for snow and ice removal on 2023.
You need to compare the contracted services too. So, we spent $298 in 2023 because when we're dealing with a plowing situation, Tree King is out here plowing as well. So when you're looking at a storm, we have both accounts being expended.
I guess what I'm confused is what's contracted services against operating expense?
Operating expenses,
My
salt
question's on the
and
operating.
equipment. Operating expenses, salt and equipment that we use that are disposable or repairs related to it. The contracted services are strictly outside plowing services. Those are the two line items.
So then my question was, if last year we spent 265,000, we're adding another 30,000 of operating, not contracted services. I see that number is different. And so I'm just asking, what's the 30,000 for operating?
It's just a crystal ball.
That's
Just
all.
a crystal ball,
And it's salt,
honestly.
it's the annual, salt goes up and down every year too, the contracted amount for that, the cost. And it is, like Rick said, it's a crystal ball, because it's an unknown.
I mean, if you took the expended from 21 and 22, you go, well, it only needs to be about 160,000. except if it goes higher, much higher than that, then we're dipping into the snow trust, and we wanna make sure that we have, you know, available funds for this. And that's, you know, that really protects the rest of the budget, because if we use our funded budget and the snow trust money, now we're gonna dip into other budgets within the township to fund snow operations. And yes, our winters have been less in the last 2 years. This year we had a couple of decent storms, but we're still not back to where we were 5 years ago, let's say. So, this climate change is hard to forecast.
I think Mr. Flood just answered my question.
Okay.
If we were to expend the snow trust, what happens next year? I think he just answered it.
This year it's tap into other accounts. Right, because Valley doesn't let the budget run in the red.
No.
Right, and we're always anticipating using some of it, and we always had a goal of trying to keep snow trust at around 150, so we know we can dip into it. We never wanted to get it too low, just because, you know, when you
Our
run out,
policy is 150,000, is what we'd like to be comfortable with.
That's what we're comfortable with, however, since we didn't use it at all last year, and we put 50,000 in last year, it's sitting at about 225 right now.
but we're gonna need some this year.
Yeah.
Councilman Hall?
Just a minor notification, where you're getting the salt from, no change to the location of where the pickups are.
It's still coming from the port and it's being delivered to our yard.
Thank you.
Actually, Steve was able to secure, through Union County, the price of salt that was $20 less a ton than Morris County. So we reduced our salt number in this budget
Excellent.
because of, you know, Steve finding cheaper salt.
You buried the lead on that one.
Councilman Crowley?
So, Valerie, I'm a little confused. This says 2023 snow trust balance is 179. You're saying it's 225?
It is 225, because we put 50,000 in there last year.
Okay, that's not shown here. So
Yeah, this sheet was probably done before that transfer
Yeah.
occurred.
Okay. Everybody good? Okay then.
Okay, so we're gonna go down to Public Works.
Page 105.
The overall budget has actually been reduced some. There's some increases in salaries, and there's some decreases in some of the other expenses, so I don't know if there's any particular questions on that.
Anything, Sean?
If I'm looking at the bottom line, the overall budget is increased, John. But I could be looking at it wrong. They spent it through 2023.
So I'm looking at the actual budget, not what was expended. So if you look at 2023 adopted budget, it's 352, right? And the recommended is 345. So the budget to budget, not budget to actual.
Councilman Hall?
Just out of curiosity, Rick, can you explain, the sub-account of a 271 brush compost? We expended 9,000 in 22, we expended 9,000 in change in 23.
Sure.
And we're recommending 38,000, this shows a good reason.
So in 2022 and 2023, we tackled our brush pile, and this is basically to grind the brush pile that we accumulated at the recycling center. Due to the lateness of the year in 2022 and again in 2023, we utilized the recycling trust to offset the cost of this processing of the brush. So our normal cost would be $38,000 based on the quotes that we receive from companies that grind and haul away our brush. If we don't use the recycling trust, our cost would be approximately $38,000 this year. If we do use the recycling trust, then we haven't figured out the balance of that yet and how that works out, but this is what it would cost.
Do we have a balance for this recycling trust, how much is in there?
We get new money every year, but probably somewhere between 40 and 50,000, but I don't know what our remaining balance is.
And where's that reflected in this budget?
You won't see that in there.
And is it populated the same way as the snow trust?
No, that's actually, what goes into the recycling trust is when we, get money for tires. So that money goes in, when we get money for recycling metals, that goes in, and also every year we get a recycling, grant that goes in, and we have certain rules that we have to follow in order to use the grant, and one of them is the brush, and, I noticed that we hadn't used it often, so I had said to Rec, maybe we can use it to grind, to do the brush grinding this year. So that's not gonna be something that's available every year. Sometimes Kellyanne needs to buy, dumpsters or new trash cans for the town, or all that, those items come out of there. So that's not always gonna be available.
Okay, good, thank you. Councilman Probably.
John, I think, Councilman Riley asked about just a list of all the trusts and what's in them anyway, at the last one. We'd like to see that list.
Yeah, we definitely have the larger ones, some of the, we get the smaller ones too.
Okay.
We could probably just pull out even last year's audit.
Yeah.
We can get it. All the trusts are in the audit report at the end of the year.
Everybody's good? We're good?
Because we're gonna jump down to sanitation. And Rick has the number in there, and I think on one of the backup sheets, he has the calculation for the increase for the Blue Diamond for, I believe, about 3/4 of the year.
Yep.
Is when the rate changes,
Yeah,
is when
we
the
get-
contract starts.
Correct. First quarter is based on the same pricing as 2024, and then the remainder, 3/4 is the new pricing, because our contract year starts April 1st. So that's when the price increases occur. We did see a 3% increase in the tipping fees, courtesy of Morris County. So we pay the difference in the tonnage collected, above the tipping fee rate that occurred in 2021 when we awarded this contract. And since 2021, the price has gone up $8.75 per ton, for MUA fees. And we pay that separately on top of the contract for Blue Diamond to collect, approximately 8,500 tons of trash and everything else they provide for us in the year.
I'll go last, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Hall.
Is Blue Diamond still a legal entity, or have they been completely acquired into the new entity?
So they have been acquired by Waste Connect. The DEP has allowed them to keep their name, so their permits and their operations are still under the name Blue Diamond, but they are a wholly owned subsidiary of Waste Connect.
Okay, so they're wholly owned subsidiary of the parent company, Waste Connect.
Correct.
Okay. So, has anybody talked to Tony about any modifications to the contractual agreement?
There have been no modifications to anything. Our billing is still coming into Blue Diamond, we're still paying Blue Diamond. The personnel has stayed the same, they just have, another corporate entity overseeing them. There has been some interesting behind the scenes discussions between Blue Diamond and Waste Connect. Waste Connect is a subscription sanitation company. You buy one of their toters and they come along and collect it for you. They're not used to the curbside business, so they've tried to overlay their corporate mindset or culture onto Blue Diamond, which hasn't gone very well. For instance, they say you can't go down the street and pick up both sides of the street. They want you to drive down both sides. And Blue Diamond's like, you bought us because we're profitable. We won't be profitable if we have to drive up and down every street, both sides of the street. Now, Kenville Ave, you can't necessarily pick up both sides of the street, but all of you who live in developments, it's very easy to have the garbage truck drive down the road and pick up both sides. So Blue Diamond is still operating as they were, but again, they have a corporate oversee.
Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Flood, how much longer on that contract?
April 26th.
April 1st, 2025. It's his BD contract expires.
25.
Yeah, it's right there.
I thought it was 26. April 25. Okay. Yeah, we'll be writing specs this year.
So,
Actually, I think that's a typo.
I hope it is.
Yeah, it's 2026 because I looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 5-year from 2021, so that would be 2026. So in 2025, we will be, obviously adjusting our contract and putting it out to bid. Because the contract is above $12 million, the state comptroller's office needs to review our bid documents before we go out to bid and then before we award. So the state is going to be, they're not assisting us, but they're overseeing the bid.
Lots of overseeing this year.
Yep.
That's what I'm seeing. A lot of overseeing.
Yes, it's definitely, Big Brother's moving us forward.
Yeah. Questions? I think we're good.
Okay, so we're gonna go to, buildings and grounds. If there's any, specific questions, Rick's here, but Steve, and kind of his baby moving a little more than Rick's. So if there's anything that interests council.
Deputy Mayor?
206 contracted services. Been spending half of that. Is that just a guess to make sure we're covered?
It's best guess there, because it does cover, generator repairs. Some things you can't see out of there is we funded a generator replacement last year, out of a different account, just because this one likely went over. So this is kind of a best guess, worst case scenario. It covers, preventive maintenance as well as repairs for certain things.
Can I assume 263 HVAC is the same situation?
Correct.
Questions, comments? Gentlemen? Okay.
Okay, so next on the list is equipment repair, again handled through Public Works. You can see some of the numbers there for salaries, and then there's some, the individual breakouts for inventory, materials and supplies, and all the various repair budgets for the different departments that are charged back. So there may be some questions on some of those particular line items.
Naturally. Deputy Mayor?
204 inventory.
Okay,
Other
so,
than just the budget of the line, what's inventory?
so inventory is, most of the parts, brake pads, oil, filters, they could be used across multiple different departments. We keep an inventory, and the previous supervisor who was in this department utilized inventory, as a classification. In 2022, that supervisor retired, and new supervisor, Jim Norris, has been, while he buys inventory, he credits it to the department where it's going to be used. So for instance, you'll notice that in 2023, he spent $69.50, and his normal budget was $23,000, just based on increasing in pricing. He took those numbers and he split them into the individual departments where those units were used. So he kind of, while he purchased them in a group setting, he then charged them to the individual departments. So that kind of spread out that expense, so it wasn't concentrated in inventory. Now, I talked to him today because I said, listen, when they see $6,900 and they see you asking for $20,000, somebody's gonna raise the question. Okay. So I said, how am I gonna dance around this, being honest? And he said that he will continue to purchase in a group situation, but then he will charge the individual accounts where they go to. So this is really almost a hedge against other line items that may go over. He doesn't know which one it is, because we run in and we need a transmission for a big truck and it costs $10,000, or we have a expensive fire truck repair, or a plow truck gets damaged or something. This is kind of his hedge in his budget to spread that around where he needs to.
So in each individual area, department, there's also an inventory budget line.
Yeah, he figures out how many tires and brake pads and things like that he needs just based on mileage. But when you get into the miscellaneous repairs, that's not something you can really budget. You can budget oil changes based on how many miles you drive, but you can't tell when meaning an exhaust system or your alternator goes, or, things like that happen. So that's what this number represents.
Fred?
Sub-account number 101, I guess, maybe Steve, aren't you gambling?
No, I'm in equipment repair. There's 3 people there.
Okay, no, we're good.
Yep.
No, the reason being is, I'm looking at the recommended, and if you need an extra body, then you have to cover it. So
We're good. No staffing increases requested in equipment repair.
Okay. Yes?
262 dial right. We expended, looks like $2,500, and we've got 10,000 in for the.
Yeah, it's just we have 2 buses and they're aging. One of them is gonna be replaced this year, so there's, there could be an expensive repair coming along. We got 2 buses that,
Well, the one that's replacing is coming this year. We wouldn't fix that bus, put a lot of money into it. would we?
well, we can't live without a bus down, so we have to keep it running until the new bus arrives. We can't just say, let's park it and reduce our senior transportation by 50%. So the bus has to keep running, so this is really, again, it's a hedge.
Is that, what's the anticipated delivery date of the new vehicle? After budget's approved?
Until I get an order, I don't know. I'm hoping it's this calendar year.
Half of the bus is budgeted for the,
No,
we
I
have it in this
understand
budget,
that.
so we can't order until the
Yeah,
capital.
once the budget's approved, and I can say, this is when I anticipate ordering it, and so I'm gonna order it in April or May, they would tell me it's 12 months, it's
They
10 months.
haven't provided you
I don't know that at this point.
tentative lead time yet?
Correct, I do not know.
Anybody else? Let's move on.
Okay, so we're gonna jump to, parks maintenance.
Page 129.
So you can take a look at some of those line items, and again, I think if you look at the overall budget, again, budget to budget, not budget to actual, it's actually slightly reduced percentage-wise for the year.
Yeah, and some of this is due to, Steve's rotating from resodding fields to this year he's gonna do some clay repair. So there's some savings in that line item 208, budgeted versus requested, because we're not doing sod replacement, we'll be doing infield upgrading to some of our infields.
Questions?
What about 207 field paint, why did that, I'm not really questioning why it's reduced, but what he's changing this.
Better render, different material, we have to stretch it out a little bit more than we have in the past, so
So
some savings there.
So the township is still painting all of our fields?
Same amount of services we
Right.
provided in the past, just better product.
Excellent. Councilman Hall?
The grass maintenance again, I see the patches on the field for the last couple months. That's just seeding underneath there?
Yep, that's a turf blanket, so it just, it enhances the growth over the course of the winter time, so come spring season, hopefully play a little earlier.
But there isn't any sod that's gonna want to go in there, it's just.
Anybody else? Okay.
All right, so we are going to switch some staff. Thank you, Rick, thank you, Steve. I'm gonna ask Brett to come up, there's a few accounts that Brett oversees. And the first one that we're going to go to is public assistance. I apologize, I do not have the page number for that. 137, 138? So again, this is our social services program. It's primarily provides the funding for our staff. We have 2 part-time employees, as council is aware. If there's any questions concerning that.
Anybody?
I just think this whole thing is wonderful. I mean, the amount of assistance you give to people, just,
go to senior activities.
36.
Thank you.
Would you-
So again, if you look at senior activities, you're looking at, again, we briefly talked about dial-a-ride, but you're talking about, costs related to the dial-a-ride service. And then we have the costs related to our, the 2 senior clubs that we have currently in town. If there's any questions on that, no change in staffing or anything like that with dial-a-ride.
Questions, comments? Okay, good.
Okay, so we are going to go to recreation. Someone has that page number, I appreciate it.
Now, I have a question about it, sorry.
Want to go back to senior?
Senior.
Okay.
Just 219, 23, we adopted $5,500, we expended 47 to change, why are we only requesting $750 here?
This last year, we bought a bingo, machine for the seniors, and so that was a
Yeah.
one-time, add to the
Wow.
budget, and we took it back down.
Thank you.
I think we had, what, 3,500 for that?
And they love it.
Do you remember?
It was a little higher.
A little bit higher than 3,500? Yeah, that was a one-time expenditure that, it's almost too small to put in capital. We have a really good place to put it, so we did put it in operating. It's been a good purchase.
Absolutely.
The old one was old.
Very. Okay.
Okay, so going to recreation administration. Same staff levels here. Any questions on recreation? The biggest change you'll see is the online registration service. And then that's, a lot of times we're trying to get an idea of what that's gonna cost us and just looking at prior years. So there's an increase there. That's the biggest increase we have in operating
That's
costs.
related to our signups, so the higher you see it, the more people are participating.
Questions, comments?
Yeah.
Fred?
Just for the council's notification, I'm just thinking of Sean and I, we see this all the time, but the amount of registration seen across the board or programs has gone up like a rocket ship. So, a lot of people are using the online registration. And, the registration in general has increased dramatically. Correct, Fred?
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Okay, let's move on.
Okay, if we jump down to leisure, this deals a lot with our seasonal programs. We do have some increases in costs related to staff, and as everybody knows, we're still dealing with the increase that we have from the state on minimum wage. Some of our positions are impacted by that, just depending on what positions there are. And then we have tentative budgets for all of the various sports that we have, and all the programs that runs throughout the year, in addition to some of our special events and things like that in here. Overall, budget tier is a pretty small increase. It's about, I think it's a little bit less than $7,000 for this budget. Most of the programs, as council is aware, they run pretty well, and we try to keep them slightly in the black. I mean, some do better than others. We subsidize some programs. Most of the programs, we take a look at it. We've been updating our fee schedule. I think for the last 3 years, we've updated it every year to try to accommodate for increase in costs and things like that for running the programs. If there's any questions on anything related to the leisure budget.
Anybody? No questions?
All right, Brett, thanks for coming. Let's see tomorrow. All right, so we're gonna switch gears again, because again, some of these accounts, and again, the council has questions on them, but some of the accounts, like the Musconetcon Planning Board, the library, those different budgets, I do not have for discussion purposes, because there's just nothing in there that changes. There's a lot of statutory expenditures, social security, pension, things like that. But if anybody on council has questions on any of those, we'll certainly go over them. But I wanted to make sure we went over the ones that I knew council wanted to look at, which are the actual departments that are actually providing the services for the town. So I'm gonna ask Melanie Machete, our town engineer, to come up. She's next, and we're going to jump all the way down to the water utility. So we're gonna, 211? So we're gonna start with water. As council knows, this is a separate fund, not funded through tax dollars, but certainly funded through user rates for the people that are connected to the Roxbury Township water system. And you can take a look at some of those line items. A lot of the staff levels are the same as prior years, no changes there. You'll see some of the costs that move around a little bit in the operating expenses. Some of them are related to water purchase from MUA. Some of them are related to some of the debt service, which, some of the updates on debt service. So if there's any particular questions the council has, we can certainly try to answer those for you this evening.
Mr. Wall?
We have, it's an expended, let me be clear, sub-account 101, salary and wages, expended through December 31st, 2003, $354,000. The year before that was 413, and now you're looking at 422. Just flat out staffing issues, John?
It's possible, and I would have to go back and look, but it's times people do come and go in the department depending on, people stay with us or they don't, and sometimes we have open positions for a little bit, so it just depends. This budget is fully funding all of the positions that we have, and I believe actually right now they're all filled.
They're all filled. One open labor position. Last year we were down two operators last year, due to retirees.
So we filled all of our operator positions, which are, the most important. The labor is important also, but that's one that, at times it's a little bit difficult to fill, and not only in water, but in public works.
Mr. Crowley?
203 water testing, looks like it jumps around. Last year we did 23,000, it's jumping to 35,000. We adopted 20, we're at another 15,000.
Yes, there are certain things that we test annually, certain things we go every 3 years, and certain things we do every 6 years. This is our, every 6 year, we have radiologicals, we have VOCs, we have all the PFAS testing that we do. So
It's our lucky year.
this is our lucky year, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Shawn?
205, plant operation.
Yes. Due to increases in, the generator maintenance, new vendor, new pricing, that's going up. We have valves that need to be maintained that we've been having problems with. We're finding that a lot of the parts are, probably twice the amount that they used to be, and, longer lead time. And that's just by the age of the valves, and they're due this year. It is the same story, and it's, if you look even at what we've expended through, we have certain valves that I ordered back in July of last year that I think just came in Tuesday of last. So things are just taking longer to get to us.
Do we have any inventory of valves,
We do. We track, when they're due for maintenance. You can't track when something's actually gonna let loose. But we try to maintain it as best as we can in-house without, going to outside vendors.
Thank you.
The only other discrepancy, I'm sorry, Mayor.
No,
is on
go ahead.
Is on 211 consulting services. It seems like every year it's very low. Is there a reason why we budget for the, just out of curiosity, 60,000? Is there something coming up, John, and that,
We always have work, it just depends how it's paid for. We always have work. We always, with the water system, the engineering we're doing, some of the changes, we always need assistance usually from Mott McDonald, who provides consulting services for us. It's good to have that line in there in the event we need it.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, let's move on.
Okay, so we're gonna jump down to sewer. again, if you, similar to water, a lot of the line items are very similar, but there's a few that you'll really see the increase on. And I'm gonna, just for instance, Melanie can talk a little bit about, like, for instance, I was gonna go through a few of them, so councilors have asked, like, the chemical budget is significantly higher. Melanie, if you could explain that one, please.
We received bids last year for our chemicals. They are quite higher than the prior year. In some instances, 15% by vendor than last year, which is the cause for the increase in the chemical line item budget.
If you have a pool, you know the increase in chemicals.
Some of these were quite surprising. But we bid it out, and that's what we have.
I hear you because I have a pool and it was eye-opening.
Yes.
The amount of chemicals.
If you take a look at on the next page, and we can go back for any additional ones council wants to discuss, but the other one that, this has kind of moved around over the past few years, is how the MSA charges us. This is the Regional Sewer Authority that we send some of our sewage to for treatment. They've done some different accounting over the years, and you can see some of the different, if you go back through the years, what they've charged us. They've just changed their method of how they bill us and how they account for things. You can see their costs have gone up significantly. They might have even done a rate increase, Melanie, I'm not 100% sure, but some of it is the accounting and how they charge us, so we have to account for the increase in the MSA line item.
Well, one thing with the MSA, this year is, most of the debt has come off. And with the operating part of the budget has been maintained. I think it's maybe like 1% increase over, from last year's budget for just the operating part of it. It's the debt part, even though a lot of our debt has, the MSA's debt has fallen off and it's been paid in full. Unfortunately, we don't have, reserves that can be used to offset those increases. So unfortunately, we're stuck with, I think it was a 6% increase, overall on the budget. But it was less than 3% on the operating part of the MSA's budget. So everything's being driven by debt in that case.
Deputy Mayor.
101, we're
101.
fully staffed there now.
We are fully staffed. Last year, we hired, 2 new employees, one in July and one in August. 1 lab tech and 1 operator, so we are fully staffed.
The lab tech was a tough position to fill. Council's aware our previous lab tech went up, now he's the manager of the system, which is great, he's doing a great job. That was a tough one to fill, somewhat unique position, so
It is.
lucky to fill that, and it's working out.
Councilman Paul, you good?
Is sludge, looking at here, with the hauling and disposal, don't get me wrong, it's pretty consistent here across the board. But we bid for that, correct?
We will be bidding this year for sludge hauling. The Passaic Valley, I think, is this year as well. Usually, they only go up like maybe $3, $1 or $2.
That's the
The
disposal.
disposal part of it at Passaic Valley. But the hauling, it's because it's all driven by fuel costs.
Are they pretty much the only game in town?
Passaic Valley is,
For
for
disposal.
disposal, absolutely. Haulers, we typically do get 3 bids, 4 bids sometimes for hauling. The company that we've been using over the years, has always been the lowest bidder. Some of them, the other prices have been close to $20 more per 1,000 gallons, in hauling. So it'd be substantially higher if we went to one of the other vendors.
Anyone else? Alrighty.
Thanks, Melanie. No, that's good.
Thank you.
So, unless I'm mistaken, I don't think we had any additional follow-up questions from tonight's meeting. And I'm hopeful that our next meeting on March 5th, we can finalize everything outstanding that council's asked, and we do have some things we need to get to you. We can talk some more about the utility budgets. We're gonna talk about revenues, expenditures, outstanding debt, payments of things, using cash, right? We have some of those things we need to get to you for the next meeting. And hopefully after that, we can get things finalized. That's my goal. Everything that I wanted to get through tonight, we did, unless there's any additional questions the council might have.
Yeah, Councilman Crowley brought up a really good point. You know, if we could just get a listing of all those little revenue buckets that we're talking about here, because I could just imagine Mr. Riley coming at the next meeting, not going, so.
Yeah, we have some that are much more significant and they're used a lot more. Some of them are very minor, but we can still put them all together.
It'd just be helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Councilman Hall, anything else?
No, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Councilman Crowley?
Nope, all set.
Mayor?
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, so that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, that brings us to number 5, matters, oh, sorry. Oh, thank you, anybody else up there? Oh, thank you.
Thank you for all of you coming in.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. All right, we're good. Matters requested, referred by council members, manager, attorney, or clerk, none. That brings us to our first public portion. If anybody would like to get up and speak, please do so. State your name and address for the record. I'm looking at you, Mr. Kluska. Any questions? Wow, I know. Okay, seeing no one in the public wishing to speak, I'll close that portion. That brings us to introduction of proposed ordinances. There are none. Hearing and adoption of ordinances on the second reading. There are none. Introduction and adoption of resolutions. There are none. No personnel changes. There are no communications. That brings us to our second public portion. If you would like to get up and speak, please do so now. Seeing none, I close the second public portion. We do not have an executive session. I will call for an adjournment.
So moved.